The courtroom was silent when the slap echoed, not loud, not dramatic, just sharp enough to make everyone freeze. The black woman staggered half a step, her head snapping to the side. Gasps rippled through the benches. A cop's hand dropped back to his belt like nothing had happened. "Stand straight when you're addressed," he said coldly. The judge didn't object. Didn't even look up. The woman slowly lifted her eyes, not in fear, not in anger, but calm, almost disappointed. "Did you just strike me?" she asked quietly. The cop smirked. "You're in no position to ask questions." Laughter, not loud but enough. Her wrists were cuffed, her suit slightly wrinkled, her dignity untouched. She glanced around the courtroom, absorbing every face, every badge, every camera in the corner. Then she spoke a sentence that made no sense at the time. "Please make sure the record shows what just happened." The judge sighed. "Remove her if she keeps talking." The bailiff stepped forward. "And just before they grabbed her arms, she said one last thing. You're going to wish you'd waited 10 seconds. Cut to silence. They didn't wait. They dragged her back to the table, forcing her to sit. The prosecutor leaned in, voice dripping with confidence. "Your Honor, the defendant has a history of being uncooperative." The cop who slapped her chuckled. "She's always got an attitude," he added. The judge nodded like this was routine. The woman sat still, eyes forward, hands folded despite the cuffs. Every 30 seconds, another cut. "Answer when spoken to. Don't roll your eyes. People like you always think you're special." She didn't react. She listened. At one point, her phone buzzed softly in her purse on the floor. The bailiff kicked it away. "No devices." She glanced down briefly, then back up. Calm, too calm. The prosecutor mocked her silence. "Nothing to say now?" She replied evenly, "I'm listening." The cop leaned toward another officer and whispered, "Loud enough for the mic to catch? Thinks she's smarter than everyone." A few snickers from the gallery. Another mystery. Why was a woman being treated like this over a minor civil citation? Why were their cameras already set up? Why did she look more prepared than anyone else in the room? The judge announced a short recess. As everyone stood, the woman finally turned her head and looked directly at the cop who slapped her, not with hate. With certainty. "You still have time to apologize," she said softly. He laughed. Worst mistake of his career. During recess, a senior court officer entered and whispered something to the judge. For a moment, the judge's expression changed. Viewers leaned in, hope. The judge cleared his throat. "Court is back in session." The woman straightened. Maybe this was it. The judge looked at her, then away. "After reviewing preliminary notes, I see no reason to alter today's proceedings." Hope died instantly. The prosecutor smiled wider than before. The cop crossed his arms, victorious. The judge addressed the woman. "Your behavior has not helped your case." She nodded once. "I understand," she said. The judge continued. "I find you in contempt of court for repeated disruptions." A collective gasp. Contempt meant immediate consequences. The bailiff moved closer, her shoulders tensed slightly for the first time. "Not fear, timing," she inhaled slowly. "This court is making a serious error," she said. The judge slammed the gavel. Enough. That was the lowest point. The room felt heavy. The villains had won. As the bailiff reached for her arm, the narrative shifted, not spoken aloud but felt. This woman had learned patience early, raised in a neighborhood where silence kept you alive. Watched her mother work 3 jobs and still be disrespected at counters and offices. She learned how power worked, who had it, who abused it. She studied law, systems, language. She learned when to speak and when to wait. Years earlier, she had stood in another courtroom, younger, watching injustice go unanswered. She promised herself she'd never interrupt power again. She would become it. That's why she tolerated the insults, the slap, the laughter. Because today wasn't about her feelings. It was about exposure. Her phone buzzing earlier wasn't random. It was confirmation. Everything was in place. The last piece just needed to fall. The unexpected character was the court reporter. Her hands paused above the keyboard. She looked up. "Your Honor," she said hesitantly, "for the record." There was physical contact. The judge stiffened. The cop snapped, "Stay in your lane," but it was too late. Another officer shifted uncomfortably. A lawyer in the gallery stood up. "Your Honor, I recognize this woman." Whispers exploded. The prosecutor's smile faded. The judge frowned. "State your name," he ordered the woman. She met his eyes. "Proceed carefully," she replied. The room buzzed with tension. The judge demanded her name again. She glanced toward the camera, then back to the bench. "My name," she said calmly, "is Justice Maya Thompson." Silence. Real silence. She continued. "I am a federal oversight judge assigned to investigate misconduct in this district." The cop's face drained of color. The prosecutor stepped back. The judge's gavel slipped from his hand. "The cameras," she added, "were authorized by my office." No one moved. No one breathed. "You struck me on record," she said, looking at the cop. "You mocked me on record," to the prosecutor. "And you allowed it," to the judge. Security entered. "Not for her." Badges were taken. Whispers turned into chaos. The cop tried to speak. "No excuses," she said gently. "Today was your testimony." She was uncuffed. Not hurried. Not dramatic. She stepped forward and took the judge's seat, not symbolically, but temporarily as authority transferred. Her voice was steady. "This court failed the public today." Consequences were read aloud. Suspensions, investigations, charges. She looked once more at the room. "Power doesn't reveal character," she said. "It reveals habits." She stood. Walked away, quiet, final line, soft but unforgettable. Justice is patient, but it always remembers.